What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Jasamian Gaming, and here I am with another build video for you guys. I finally made a solid DPS build that I can share. Being that I'm a skill build main, it was really hard to come up with the pieces and reroll, but I got a solid one. And I think everybody would appreciate it. So let's showcase this real quick. I have 261,000 DPS, 411,000 toughness, 13,000 skill power, 2760 firearms, 3300 stamina, and 1300 electronics. And the AUG I'm using is a 204 AUG that's 12.2k damage with Swift, Brutal, and Fierce. Fierce being the given talent, which is the best case scenario because it's really hard to unlock this with a DPS build because you have to dedicate a lot to electronics. But it being the given talent, I get it for free, which is pretty dope. And I have another AUG I would use in this build, but I prefer the Brutal and Fierce combination. But this is a responsive, deadly, and Swift AUG that hits for 100 more damage than the other one, but I still prefer this one. I love this combo right here, Brutal and Fierce. Going into my secondary, I have an M1A that I did find in the Dark Zone. It hits for 45.2k with Brutal, Prepared, and Adept, and these two together are monsters at a distance, because when I pop the Pulse, not only do I get that crit buff, I get the crit buff of Adept, which usually results in me hitting in a strong crit, and a 13.50% damage increase when it's at a distance, which is the role of this. It's a ranged weapon and it kills. That's why it's at 150 DPS for a marksman, which is dope. So going into my build itself, I am rocking a 182 Reckless vest. I wish I had a 204, but the rolls on it was too nice for this. So I have 829 stamina on this. Reckless increased by 13% damage, and increases also, which sucks, 10% damage from anybody. Which it's cool because I melt people with this build, so it's fine. It's fine. Going into my major attributes, it's 570 armor, increased kill XP, and mobile cover, damage resilience, which is really good when I use smart cover. I have two mod slots, both giving me stamina and both giving me armor, as you can see, which makes a solid health buff. I'm glad I had it rolled towards stamina because it's a damage chest piece. It increases my damage regardless, so why not commit to health? Going down to my mask, this mask is strict firearms. It's 661 firearms with a pulse critical hit chance, which is all tailored towards hitting. And then I have two mod slots that also give me electronics and stamina. Electronics giving me armor and stamina giving me extra health. Since the striker mask already hits for 661 firearms by itself, it's a great increase on my DPS. Going down to my knee pads, I have these Sentries called knee pads, which I wish I had a mod slot, but I can only ask for so much. 1,117 armor, 10.50% exotic damage resilience, which is really good because I don't want to get stickied and get destroyed at full health all the time. 100% scavenging for when scavenging comes out. Increased kill XP, enemy armor damage for when I do a little bit of PvE. Also 240. Going to my backpack, I wish I had a 240, but it's a 214 with 136 firearms, 591 stamina, ammo capacity, but the skill attributes are like God roll to me. So it's pulse critical hit damage, 9.50%, and 3% pulse critical hit chance. I don't know how I got both those at the same time, but I love it, and it's like one of my favorite pieces. So going down to my gloves, these are my God roll striker gloves, 632 firearms, 441 SMG damage, 12% damage to elites, 40% critical hit damage, and 8.50% pulse critical hit damage. These are God roll gloves. The only thing I can ask for is critical hit chance instead of damage to elites, but these are still God roll gloves. And this is what makes me hit really, really hard. That 40% critical hit damage on top of the 50 due to the buff of the strikers is a killer combination. Going down to my holster, it's a 240 strikers holster, 797, 641, and 671 with ballistic shield damage, which I don't use, but it's fine, but it has a mod slot. And I use that mod slot to have firearms and extra health. So explaining the buff, for those who don't really know, 20% enemy armor damage on top of everything and 50% critical hit damage on top of everything because of me having 3 strikers. And I have 2 sentries, which also give me an additional damage buff that, let me go down to it, that gives me 30% headshot damage for those who know, on top of my brutal. So that's exactly what makes me hit really, really hard, and I love it. This is explaining my build. For those who want to know, how do you get such high DPS while maintaining over 400k toughness? I think the secret is in the Reckless chest, because the Reckless chest gives you a buff of DPS regardless of what you have on it. So if you commit 1 to health, fully, you're going to get the damage buff regardless, as if you had a firearms vest. So roll your reckless chest to stamina and try to get 2 mod slots, because not only are you going to have very, very low armor because there's not many good reckless vests out there since they're not 240, you're going to need to commit and make up for that with the mod slots. And also, another thing is you want to have a holster that has all 3, without a doubt. I mean, it sucks because it's really hard to get a really, really good roll, but I recommend you put up your scavenging so you get really, really high quality of holsters. So if you find a holster with high scavenging, more than likely you have really, really good rolls on it. So that's why I don't have to really worry about re-rolling certain things and having a problem with it leaving something out. That's why I have a mod slot on top of this nice little set of rolls I have here. So another thing that really increases DPS that people understand is brutal. I think brutal increases a lot because as you can see, like if I were to strip this gun like naked, let's strip this real quick for you guys. If I was to strip this gun naked and you compare it to one that has responsive and deadly, which are 2 amazing rolls, look at the difference. Responsive hits harder with 12.3k and deadly in Swift, which is the same as the other AUG, but it has a 9,000 DPS difference. So I guess brutal and fierce give way more buff to DPS, which, I mean, doesn't really matter. It's all preference. Don't really focus on the actual number, but I'm just explaining why it's so high. So if you want to have a really high AUG, I would recommend you try to get one with Swift. For some reason, all Swift, because you're reloading faster, I guess the game calculates it as you're doing more damage over time based on you reloading faster. So I guess if you want to have a high DPS and that's what, that's your preference, I recommend trying to get one with Swift with good rolls on top of it. Yeah, it sucks if you don't have the blueprint. I'm sorry for those who don't have it, but I mean, you got to get out there and grind. That's the only other way I could say that you would get an AUG, or hopefully they give it back to you guys. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions about this build, feel free to ask me. I'm trying to help everybody out. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone with just skill builds and trying to help everybody out with different type of builds. I know everybody doesn't like running around with stickies or running around with super tanky tanctician builds. So I'm trying to reach out to you guys to help you guys out. Let me explain my abilities real quick. As you can see, 60% critical hit damage buff on top of my pulse because I have 13,000 skill power, which is not that bad. On top of my damage that I'm doing already, it melts. And of course, commonly, like everybody always rock overdose, like without a doubt. I don't care what build you have, you never should not have overdose on. Like that's my personal opinion and my personal advice to those who want to survive, because I have a very, very survivalist mindset. Always rock overdose when you play this game and shoot it on the floor. See, if you have to pop it on yourself, that's fine, but more than likely shoot on the floor so you can help your teammates out, so you can get multiple heals, and that's what makes you survive longer. A lot of people just pop them and it gets shredded because it evaporates into the air, which is pretty hilarious. My talents I rock with this are triage, which is another one that you should always use. Always have your teammates in mind. That's what keeps you alive. Adrenaline, this is a DPS talent in my opinion because you can't heal yourself as you would if you were a skill build. So having that med kit that pops you over a little bit of overheal is really, really important, especially because that's what DPS builds rely on health-wise, is your med kits. Going down to strike back, of course, reach low health to reduce active skill cooldowns by 20%. This is really good whenever you're about to die and you hit a corner and you have like no health. That 20% buff could mean life or death for you. And of course, one is none, the 50% chance of knocking someone with a bullet, which practically in theory doubles your DPS. You need this for when you do those face tank fights, when you guys are exchanging bullets. Whoever doesn't have it is usually going to be the one running away, and that's the person that's going to get melted. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, if you guys want any more theory builds, I'm here for you guys. Just let me know what kind of build you want me to make. This is what I would do if I was a main DPS. This is the type of build I would rock because it's decent health. As you can see, 411, 102 health, full mitigation. That's fine with me. I mean, if I'm supposed to be melting people, anything over 100k is fine to me personally. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know on Twitter. Feel free to let me know in the comments. I will help you guys out. This has been your boy Jasamian. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace, love, and hip hop.